I'm super happy to be here. Paddy's already introduced me, Haz Dulull, HaZimation. I'm just going to give you a quick overview. So it's going to be sort of like 40 minutes or 45 minutes, and then I'll give some time for Q&A afterwards. So please do ask questions afterwards. But this is a quick overview of how we produce an animated feature film or films entirely in Unreal Engine as final pixels, which means no compositing or anything. It's straight out of Unreal. So I'm going to show you a little teaser, sort of like a 90-second teaser to give you an idea. Hopefully this runs okay in Zoom.
Keep your fire away from the asset.
Run!
He's dying, Leon. He's been leaping from reality to reality, trying to find the one in which you do save him. And he won't stop, even though it's killing him. He won't stop till he finds the reality in which you succeed.
It's not gonna be this one, all right?
The next time he riffs, he will die.
Okay, so that's a little teaser. The full trailer would come out probably towards the end of the year, full theatrical streaming sort of trailer. Okay, so let's talk about how we did this movie. Okay, so as Paddy's already mentioned, it was like just about 2 years to do. Our studio, HaZimation, was built with Unreal Engine from the ground up. So unlike other studios who started off with Maya, Houdini, and so on, and integrated Unreal, we did the other way around. We actually built the company, I think, around 2019, with Unreal being the core center, and everything feeds into Unreal. So yes, we use Xsens, we use iClone, we use anything, whether it's C4D. We're kind of software agnostic when it comes to building assets, visual effects, and animation. But once it comes into Unreal, it stays in Unreal, and we take it to the finishing line in Unreal. We use things like Alembic caching, for certain things like simulation or cloth sim, and FBXs for animation, like retargets from Xsens or any mocap that we do, or animation from Maya. Okay, so obviously, got to talk about some of the back end. We use AWS. Who would be an amazing support for us, and we use Perforce for all our source control. Perforce is actually more than source control for us. It really allows us to keep tabs on what's going in and out of the server, but also really see what everyone's doing, especially on a small team like ours. Speaking of small team, this is just some of the people that are in our team. Obviously, we're much bigger than this now, but when we started off, it was essentially that was the start of the team. So it was myself, who was the director, the producer, and the shots creator. There's Alex, who worked in Montreal, who's our animator, motion cap, Mark Cheng, Unreal Engine shot creator, amazing artist, Gabriella, so on, and our head of CG, who's Andrea Tetechu, who's responsible for building a lot of the pipeline stuff that I'm showing you today. And we also have Paula Crickard, who's my producing partner. I always show people this. This is what my office looks like, just in case people want to know. What does a director's office look like? Especially a director that works in Unreal Engine. Yes, I have a lot of retro gaming swag everywhere. It's for inspirational purposes, but you can see here, it's pretty much very heavy with really cool tech. I have the Wacom Cintiq for doing previs and just doing actual sketching. I got the Asus laptop for compiling stuff. And obviously I use the Asus ProArt workstation. And at the time we were using the NVIDIA A6000 card to render every single shot. Oh, that's the other thing. Every single shot in the movie was rendered on that little black box here. When I say little big black box, all rendered on one graphics card. We're not using no render farms or anything. Okay, so what's it like making real-time animation, specifically feature film, as a director? Well, it's a little bit different to what I'm used to. I come from live action. So this is a clip of me directing the lovely Katie Sackhoff in my second film, Origin Unknown. And, very much when you direct live action, it's, you rely on a team of people to provide stuff to you, and you are pointing a lot. There's a lot of pointing when you're directing live action. And when you're directing visual effects, especially for live action, you are, over their shoulders. It's a little bit different for me. This was made during pandemic. So this is some behind the scenes, me in my front room. pretty much a lot of the shots I was shooting with just an iPad attached to a rig, live linked directly into Unreal, just to get some of the shots organic. Now, not every shot was done like this. Obviously, I'll still use the mouse and keyboard to do a lot of my shots. But sometimes if I wanted to explore an environment and I was getting FOMO, feeling of missing out of being on set, that's me, kind of like get rid of the FOMO of being on set. So I try to bring as much live action as possible when making animated films. And that's kind of like a way of working with real-time animation as well, to make it work for you. A lot of people ask me, what's it like a day-to-day of being a director on a feature film in Unreal Engine? Well, let me just show you what it's like. This is what my screen looks like pretty much on a day-to-day basis. I literally work in sequencer. So I don't do blueprints. I don't do all the nitty-gritty stuff that my amazing talented team do. What I do is I take the assets that are provided from my team, I take the environments, take the effects, the blueprints set up by Andrea, and then I'll put it all into sequencer, and then I'll choreograph the whole thing myself inside of Unreal. I will trigger off explosions, trigger off muzzle flashes, and literally just be a conductor inside a sequencer. The difference is I'm being hands-on. So, for example, this sequence here in the script was written as a series of shots. But as I was moving a camera around, I realized, you know what, this is actually a really good sequence as a single one-a shot, kind of like Birdman or something, or like any shot which has long, like Children of Men, for example. And I really love that, because for me as a filmmaker, I try to use the camera as a storytelling device. And to me, the camera is a character in the movie. So for me, the character of this character, Leon, is attached to the character of the camera. So I wanted to make the action more intimate. So it was kind of like a happy accident. And I think the beauty of these happy accidents are apparent when you are a hands-on director. If I wasn't a hands-on director, if I was just like a conventional director where I write a lot of notes or storyboard and get my artist to do the camera blocking, I don't think I would have found my voice in the film like the way I am today, or find a sequence like this where it end up kind of single one shot. And it's really cool because I can just really go in and once I'm happy with the sequence, I'm happy with the series of events, like when explosions happen, when certain people die and so on, I would then hand that over to my animators and they'll do the animation cleanup to make sure there's no intersections in the arms, or really do a cleanup. But they don't have to go creatively and change anything because I've signed it off. But to be a hands-on director, you need to have the tools. And one of the things we did at HaZimation was we spent a lot of time investing time and money into building tools in Unreal. So I have a lot of conversations with Andrea, who's my head of CG, and he would try to understand how I wanted to work as a director inside of Unreal, and he'll build me some tools. I have to say, a lot of times he built those tools so that I don't break Unreal, or that I don't break stuff, because I have a bad habit of breaking stuff. So Andrea would build me tools like I needed to animate a car chase. So for example, something like this, where I wanted to be able to animate the wheels and animate the steering wheel, but I don't want to go into Maya and do this. I wanted to do it all in Unreal. So he would rig it in a way that allows me to do all these things, like, open the door, and I can keyframe, or I can have an IK attached to the steering wheel of the arm. He'll set all that up for me, and then I can just go in and animate all of that stuff in sequencer. I would say 85% of the movie was pretty much done in sequencer. There's only certain things we went outside into Maya to do specific animation, which was usually down to character animation. Here's another example where I wanted to be able to swap objects and props from the character's hands. So Andrea built this blueprint that allows me just to select the hand, select the weapon, and hit attach, and it would attach it. Now, of course, there's a way of doing it in sequencer where you go attach and then move to transform. But when you've got like hundreds and hundreds of shots and you want to change the props very quickly, you kind of want to build these tools to just make it more efficient, especially if the director's in there doing a lot of the shots. Here's another example. Like, we didn't really have budgets to do hair simulation, nor did we have the skill set to do that. So what we ended up doing was one of our artists ended up animating a bunch of various FBXs of hair movement in 3D Studio Max, and then bring that as an FBX as a separate animation file. And then I would just select the type of hair that I wanted and just add that on. And sometimes I would motion mix as well. So I'll motion mix hair animation flop into hair animation much lighter. And it just meant that I would have a lot of control, even down to the way the hair moves. I know it's control freak, but it really helps me get exactly what I wanted with very minimal resources required, because a lot of the time we can put in to set up the systems allow me to work this way. We did a lot of adjusting of performances in real time on top of motion capture as well. So we would obviously do our mocap in Xsens, and then there will be certain things in motion capture that didn't really work, because obviously when you put mocap on a character, the character may be bigger or skinny or different proportions or different clothes. So we didn't want to have to keep going back into Maya or back into Xsens or anything like that. So what we did was we built layers in Unreal Sequencer, and we exposed the animation channels via a blueprint system, which was exposed in Sequencer. And it meant that, things like we could do head tilts, head rotations, eyes left or right, eyes up and down. Even the mouth animation, we can adjust all of these things on top of the mocap. So it's non-destructive. So it's very additive. So it's additive animation tracks, but we had to expose all of that. Oh, by the way, I forgot to mention, this was all done in Unreal Engine 4.26.2. This isn't Unreal Engine 5 or Unreal Engine 4.27. This is 4.26.2, because we started this project 2 years ago, and I'm sure we can all agree you do not update Unreal Engine mid-production, especially when you've done hundreds and hundreds of shots. You don't want to break anything. So we stayed with 4.26.2, which is why we end up building a lot of stuff that we probably could get now with Control Rig, but we didn't have Control Rig at the time. So we end up building our own version of that. A lot of people asked when they saw that little clip I sent you, like, how do we do the crowds? Well, we were quite lucky very early on. We were one of the adopters of this tool called Atoms by Toolchef, which is a real-time crowds solution that literally uses agents to populate crowds. So we feed it the agents with a variety of meshes and a variety of looped animation, and then it would scatter them for us. So that's how we did the crowds. So definitely check out Atoms by Toolchef. Very, very affordable, something like 79 quid a year or something, but we're able to do things like this running in real time, 60 frames a second. So yeah. But of course, directing actors and performances may be great with the whole Unreal Engine and real time, but we still do have to take one live action approach, and that is working with actors. So here's some behind the scenes of how we did some of the motion capture. So this is in a grading suite, and we had Ace Royal, who's an amazing motion capture artist, worked on tons of movies and video games. And what's great about directing Ace is the fact that I could see his performance in real life, but at the same time, I could see it on the skeleton in Xsens. So if there's anything not working, I could actually just address it on the spot. Clearly, I watched a lot of John Wick here, but it was just so fun to be able to work with an actor on set. And that's what I mean about coming from live action. To me, this is very valuable. This is the stuff that I miss doing. So there is an element of live action traditional filmmaking when you're working in real time, but a lot of it is with the performances. But I also directed motion capture remotely as well. So this was before I ended up working with Ace. At the very first year of production, we was working with Gabriella, who some of you in the Unreal Engine community may know. She's a phenomenal motion capture technical artist. But when we first collaborated, she was starting out. But she had an Xsens suit, and we just met online, and she helped out, and she ended up doing a lot of the motion capture for the character of Max, as well as some of the other characters like Ava, the female character. And what's interesting is, how do you direct motion capture remotely? Because it's very different to being on set with someone where you can give direct feedback. So what we end up doing is we end up just having a Zoom screen. I would do like a shot list. In fact, let me see if I've got that here. There you go. Yeah. So on the left side, I'll do a shot list. Again, very traditional way of doing live action, or any moving theatrical movies or commercials, whatever. A director does a shot list, right? Which has my shot name, the character, and what the action is. And then I take a screen grab of the Unreal Engine level, and I'll kind of lay out where each of the characters is sitting down. And then Gabriella would take her room, and she'll try to lay out the room similar to my floor plan in Unreal, as close as she can, and get certain props that would resemble it. And then we'll just rattle through, and the Zoom screen will look exactly like this. One side, you'll have the shot list, the other side, the floor plan. In the middle, I can see the live view of the Xsens preview of her in her room and do the mocap. And I just shout direction, and then we cut it, we slate it, we log it, and we do it again. And then in a couple of days' time, I get a Dropbox folder with all of the motion capture FBXs processed. I can use them in Unreal. It's a great way of working. And she's based in Florida. But what if the actors are not experienced motion capture? And as you can see now, You can see that I like to work with a variety of people. I like to work with a variety of talent. For me, it doesn't matter where they're based. If you're a great talent, you're a great talent. I want to work with you. But some actors that I want to work with are not very experienced in motion capture and can be a bit technophobe. So what we end up doing is we use something called Move AI, which I'm sure you've all heard of now. But at a time when we were using it, we were one of the early adopters as well. Being, Move AI being a British company, we had access very quickly. And we were using GoPros at the time. And what we did was we bought Nolene. So let me see if I've got some footage for you. Here we go. So Nolene is the girl with the white vest. Now, this actor here is Ace, you've seen already. So what we told Nolene was we didn't tell it was a motion capture shoot. We said we're just going to do some filming and we're just going to be very much like theater. And she's very familiar with theater and very familiar with feature film. So she came in. I mean, I'm pretty sure she questioned why is there 6 GoPros are like in a circular movement, but she didn't really question that. And she just came in and she gave the best performance because she didn't think about the technology. She wasn't thinking about, oh, do I have to like act in a certain way? She was just doing theater. And so there's a little clip of that. And what's really great is all the cameras pick up the various angles and how Move AI works. For those of you who don't know, it's not really motion capture like inertia suits or Vicon sensors. It's based on footage. You feed the footage into the system and then it processes it. So this is the system here, Move AI. So we'd feed all the GoPro footage, all logged and slated into the machine learning, and it would triangulate it, and then it will create a mesh, an actual mocap mesh. Let me see if I can find that mocap mesh somewhere. There you go. It will generate that for you based on the footage. And actually, let's have a look. Here you go. So you can see here, it's like a one-on-one. It's pretty close. I mean, there's a few discrepancies that you have to go in and clean up, but that's pretty much like straight out of GoPro footage. So this is changing the way we do mocap a lot. Now, I'm not saying this is perfect. Obviously, things like there's a reason why we have Vicon systems, but this is pretty good. And this is raw footage I'm going to show you now. We just took the raw data, fed it into Unreal. Obviously, it's not cleaned up, but you can see how very quickly we can get stuff into Unreal, and we can do scenes like where they're like 2 people interacting with each other, which is very hard to do when you got a single mocap suit. So this is very good to be able to do that. And then we go in and clean it up. Facial performance, obviously, is another thing we end up doing. We didn't use any of the head-mounted iPhones attached to a helmet like you would see in a lot of behind the scenes. We did all our facial expressions in something called iClone. Now, the reason for that is because it's a very stylized movie. We didn't need all the intricacies you would get in a more photoreal movie. This is very stylized. We relied heavily on anime. So we wanted to be able to go hyper expressives, and we found iClone was really good because it didn't, again, we're not animators, so we don't have a team of rigging artists or animation TDs. So we had to find a solution that worked for the artist and myself. So this is an example of how we were using iClone. And we use things like the expression editor to create our expressions. But then we can motion mix those expressions as well. You see here, there we go. And this is me, by the way, using my mouse. So what would be great, what's a really great way of working as a director is I would have a Zoom call with my animators, and I would just have iClone open. And as I'm talking about various expressions, I would select expressions, I'll move the mouse and communicate this way. And I find it so much more easy to communicate expressions and animation while having a conversation with animators by doing something like this. And this is all recorded, this is all saved, and then they can go and take that and work from that or work from scratch. But it's a really good way of just like communicating. And it's very quickly to set up expressions. And once we do these, we then export that as an FBX. And remember I showed you earlier, we had different channels. We will then feed the face animation into the head channel. So we will break up our skeleton in sequencer to default being the whole body, hands being the hands, obviously, mouth being the lip syncing, and head being the facial expression. So that means we can have different animators working on different parts of the animation of the character without breaking the original mocap. Here's me directing Alex Kong in Montreal. So this is a really good one.
Yes, Mom. I'm still at work. Yes. Yes. I'll remember to buy the lottery ticket.
So it's really great because he placed the camera in a position where I could see his performance on the iPhone, which is the capture, the AR capture, and I can also see his performance in iClone. And also I can see him if he wants to turn around and talk to me. So it's a little nice behind the scenes. It's one of my favorite behind the scenes. It really shows how you could really make remote directing work for you if you've got it nicely planned out. So yeah, it's really good. That was a good time. Here's some more facial expressions stuff here. This is again using the face puppet tool in iClone. Again, like, you know, I would select parts of the face as the muscles. And then once I press preview and record, I can, this is me just moving my mouse around. I'm not doing no fancy keyframing. It's just me moving the mouse around, but I can record all of that as I'm doing that. So I'm not like having to hit keyframes or stuff like that. It's auto-generating the keyframes as I move it. So it's really great to really quickly do stuff very on the fly, especially the way we work at HaZimation. We work in a very agile pipeline where things are constantly iterating. So we don't have to wait to get the perfect facial animation to get a version of the shot. I can just do a rough version real quick, get it in a shot, get it in dailies, and we have something to relate to. And then later on, the animators can go in and make a better version of the expression if they need to. Hands is a good one. So obviously you saw them behind the scenes. Gabriella had the Manus gloves, which are great. But yeah, sometimes as you're doing the shot, you realize, oh, I don't want him to hold a gun anymore. I want him to hold a katana sword. I'm not going to go back to Gabriella and say, hey, can you do more hand captures for me? I mean, that's a lot of her time to set that up. So we would use the hand gestures puppeteering tool in iClone. And again, that's just me, just really, you know, use my mouse to kind of find the hand movement I want, export out as FBX, slot it in the hand slot in Unreal, boom. So I'm able to change hands very quickly. The last thing I want to talk about in terms of like communicating is addressing notes in real time. So of course, a lot of people working in visual effects knows you have a coordinator that will write all the notes from the director, and then your draw on the screen, and then you hand it over and put it in Shotgun or F-Track or whatever software you use. We didn't do any of that. We use Trello to do all our shot management, of course, but we would do Zoom dailies like this. So every artist would share their Unreal Engine screen, and they'll walk through what they're doing. They'll walk through the shot because we're working in real time. We don't have to worry about rendering quick times. And if there was anything that needed to be changed, I would say, hey, stop, can we just move the hand up because we got the intersection in the keyboard? And the artist would address it on the fly in Zoom. So by the time we finish our Zoom dailies, 90% of the notes have been addressed. And there's the only 10% of stuff like are rebuilds, retexturing, reshading, which you don't want to do on a Zoom call, right? But things like this you can adjust. And that's because of the tools we built in Sequencer that really allows us to do things on the fly. So yeah, Zoom dailies were very, very efficient and productive for us, which is why we're able to pull a full animated feature film in like 2 years, as opposed to like 4 or 5 years of what it usually takes to make these films. Okay, so that's the animated film. But because we're in a game engine, and because we're in a world of Unreal, and because transmedia is a thing that we should all be embracing if we were using real-time technology, we decided to make a video game at the same time because we're a sucker for pain. So what we did was we prototyped the video game like pretty quickly using the assets from the movie. We got it here. There we go. And it was really just for shits and giggles to see what we could do, because there's a lot of things in the script that didn't really make it into the movie, because there's only so much you can put in a 90-minute movie, right? But in video games, multi-branch, there's a lot of stuff you can do. So, you know, we worked with the writer Stavros Pambalis to bring all the stuff that was cut on the cutting floor, bring it back into the game, and really try to do something with the game that we didn't do with the movie, which is play as the character and really relive the film, but also extend the film universe and IP in the world of the game. Meaning you can play the game and not see the film, it's fine. And you can see the film and not play the game, it's fine. We want it to be a standalone thing. But the difference being, this is true transmedia. And what I mean from true transmedia is every single asset you see here was exactly used in the movie. We have LODs generated on the fly, level of detail generated on the fly. And because our movie is very stylized, it wasn't heavy in terms of like 4K textures or anything like that. So we were able to prototype the game very, very quickly, as you see. And let's just skip forward to the exciting part of the game. This is the action part here. Now, of course, like, you know, even though we're using assets from the movie, when we built the environments, we had to do a level of rebuilding the environments to be a little bit cleaner. Because in the movie world, you cheat a lot because you build for the frame. But in the world of video games, you know, you can't have floating vertices or things intersecting with each other because it will cause issues with the game or frame rate and so on. So there was elements of that, but that's all we literally do when working on a game like the Rift game, which now is being called Max Beyond, and we've relabeled it. But yeah, for now, I'm just going to show you the early footage. But because we did that and we released the footage online, we were able to apply for the IDEA Xbox program, which stands for Independent Developers Program. And we were invited to submit. And we submitted. Several months later, they got back after we gave them the early access Steam demo and the pitch deck and all the usual things, and a clip of the movie, of course. And we got accepted, and we actually have Xbox development kits here, which is very, very rare for me because I started my career back in 98 working on PlayStation 1 games. And I remember dev kits were like the most expensive thing you could ever purchase for a indie developer. And right now we have 2 dev kits and we are official Xbox developers. So my point is we're able to move from being an animation company into making video games because our pipeline and the synergy of our pipeline is all cross-pollinated. Pretty cool word, cross-pollinated. But yeah, it literally cross-pollinated. So yeah, our artists that worked on the movie also worked on the games, and all the game artists that we hire end up working on the next movie as well. But we took it further than that. We decided, how can we extend our business of storytelling further than just animated films and video games? Yep, you're going to hear it. Get ready. The metaverse. Now, obviously, the metaverse is like the term is not as popular as it was, like, say, 2 years ago. But like, a couple of years ago when we were approached, it was the hot topic. Now everyone's talking about AI and so on. But the metaverse still lives and it's still growing, and it's a great experience to be part of, and it's going to grow as the next version of the internet, no doubt, right? Web 3.0. But at the time, a company called X Manor, which is an esports company, reached out to us and said, hey, look, we love what you guys are doing. We'd love for you to come up with a trailer for us, because, at the time, there wasn't any visuals available for any metaverse projects. There was a lot of, there's obviously blockchain technology for driving the back end. And there was a lot of demos out there, and there's a lot of things like, streaming technology, but there wasn't a lot of the pitch decks that were coming in were just blue sky vision, like Ready Player One or something. So this company said, look, can you create a trailer for us? And we're like, sure, we'll do a trailer. So we did a trailer, which ended up being this. I'll play a little clip for you. You can watch the whole trailer on the website, which I'll send you the link. But it was a really fun project. This was done in 427, Unreal Engine 427, and it was much more high fidelity with the rendering. But what was interesting was that we did the whole thing in Unreal Engine. Now, here's the thing. They came back to us and they said, look, we really love the video. It's done really great business for us. We've raised some more financing, which has been amazing. We've got a lot of awareness of the project. And can you do like a bunch more videos for us? And we're like, oh, wow, okay, but why would we do more videos? Like, essentially, if you're going to present a metaverse project, why don't you do it in Web 3, which is immersive, not Web 2? Why are we using video and pitch decks to pitch Web 3? Doesn't that define the point of Web 3? And they're like, totally like, okay, well, what do you have in mind? You've got our attention. And we're like, well, we made your entire trailer in Unreal. So why don't we just like take a few more months and prototype the experience for real, as opposed to doing more videos of simulating what the experience would be like. So we did we spent a few months putting together this quick prototype using all the assets that we used in the trailer, like the character, the environments, and we just put it in a real-time environment and plugged the controller in and started moving around and then started putting some interactions and blueprints, just some basic interaction, just to see what the world would be like as an experience, an immersive experience, as opposed to watching a video. And we started building our own like basic AI system, and we just kept building essentially a game, a big MMO we're making here, right? But they were blown away, obviously, and we were like, hey, this could work. We could make it like a big metaverse MMO style game using all the assets we've built and extend it further. And we really loved the idea. But the problem was, these guys don't have the latest NVIDIA graphics cards or high-end PCs, let alone a laptop. These guys are tech VCs or tech companies or esports companies, and they just have like mobile phones and iPhones and iPads. So we end up using it called pixel streaming, which is basically, for those who don't know what that is running a version of Unreal on the cloud on an Amazon web server. We give them a web link, they load it on their phone, and they can move around all on the phone. And that became the first iteration of like, oh, this is going to work. This is going to be a true metaverse. Now, of course, there are a lot of issues like latency. The more content you put in, the slower the frame rate. But that stuff is going to get better over the years as technology becomes better and better. Latencies get better. We have things like 5G, maybe 6G. But, for now, it was a really good way of working. So we end up going into a strategic partnership with the company X Manor, and we become co-producers. And this is the thing, guys, we are not a service company. So we're a production company. As you know, we make movies and video games. So for this, we came on as a strategic partnership. And what that means is that we are the stakeholders creatively on everything of the project, and they finance the thing, which is a great deal to be in. But then from the prototype, we end up doing it for real. So we spent a lot of time getting an art direction, and we really didn't want the metaverse project we were doing to look like all the other hundreds of metaverse projects out there, which is, let's face it, they all literally use the same cyberpunk neon pack. I know I'm going to hell for saying that, but they all look the same. It's all neon, purple, yellow, greens. We wanted to do something a little bit more unique, and we looked at video games like Zelda, Breath of the Wind, and Breath of the Wild, and we just loved the art direction for that, and we were very much inspired. And of course, everyone on the team loved anime, so we ended up started.
Okay, this is a dailies update for.
That's my voice. That's an example of my dailies I send out to the people to watch. So what we end up doing is we built the whole thing in Unreal Engine 5, and we use things like world partitioning, because we realized we're going to do an open world game. We can't just build a big massive level and do level streaming. That's not really going to work. So we do world partitioning, which is a great system in Unreal, which is designed for open world games and really allows you to create massive worlds, but streamed in real time without seeing the latency drop. So that's what we end up doing. And then we just started building a huge map system that allows us to teleport to different parts, which is very cool. And we can just fly around. I mean, you can spend ages in this metaverse just flying around. But what's really great is the fact that we were doing it properly. We weren't hacking it like the prototype was. This is done properly with really proper code. And we end up using C++. I know, right? Like, we got into the C++ territory because there's certain things that we knew blueprints just couldn't handle, that we needed to talk to servers and so on. So so we're able to like really expand our team, and now our team is growing much more technical as well. But the thing that we always instill in all our projects, especially our game projects, is it needs to be friggin' fun. If it isn't fun, we're not going to do it. So you can see here, we have worlds that are super fun to play in. We have a lot of immersive. Let's see if I can find. Oh, this is quite cool. So you can just like go up to things like basketballs and just like knock them over and use physics. But then we could build a game out of that. If you move all the basketballs in a certain area, then it would unlock something else for you to access. It's very simple gamification, but very simple things to pick up that even my mum could pick up and play. And that's what we want to do with this metaverse project, to make it so accessible to anyone and everyone, yet feel fun and familiar at the same time to video gamers. Unlike our other games, are much more complicated. In the meantime, feel free to reach out to me on LinkedIn, Instagram, Twitter. You can scan that. I'm very accessible, and I'm constantly posting behind the scenes. In fact, yesterday I posted behind the scenes of how we use Trello to do our project management. Yep, that's how open we are with our workflow. So definitely, do follow. I hope to hear from you guys. And now I'm going to turn it over to you guys to grill me with questions you may have.